Now, the importance of teaching them the impact of bullying, it was underlined once again today as a teenager from our region reportedly committed suicide in the wake of bullying at school. According to high school officials and students, 15-year-old Lennon Baldwin from Morristown, New Jersey, took his own life earlier this week. A prayer service is being held this afternoon for the teen, and 5 1's Christy Duffy. She's in first position tonight, joining us live from Morristown with more. Christy?
I used to be a victim of bullying, and since Robbie and I are sort of friends, I felt I should come out and give my respects to someone who went through the same ordeal, but just couldn't handle it.
Students flocking to Assumption Church after school let out Friday for a prayer service at the church where 15-year-old Lennon Baldwin had been baptized.
I'm here to show respect for something that could have easily been prevented.
A video was posted to YouTube by a friend of the late teen drawing a portrait of Lennon. Below it, the friend writes, "He'll be missed forever. No one should ever be bullied to the point where they feel the need to take their own life. This is a reminder of how serious it is and the lives you can affect by it." The pastor conducting Friday's prayer service says bringing the grieving community together with God will help ease the pain.
We encourage them to reach out and talk to one another, and to talk to their parents, and to talk to their teachers, and to talk to counselors.
Now, the principal of Morristown High School did put out a statement just expressing how incredibly saddened the entire school community was by Lennon's passing. They also offered counseling to all the students inside this community. Live in Morristown, I'm Christy Duffy. Rich.
All right, thank you very much, Christy. And just a cautionary note here. We're still waiting confirmation. The police have launched an investigation, but what you're hearing from the students and apparently what is being said online surrounding this, that bullying was reportedly prevalent, but we don't have yet that confirmation from law enforcement, from school officials, but that is what's being said. Well, let me bring in our panel to talk about bullying as well as so much more that we'll get into this evening. Jeannie Zaino, Dean and Professor of Political Science from Iona College. Dominic Carter, veteran political journalist and author, and a senior political correspondent, Andrew Whitman. We're going to talk next segment about a film, and we were going to talk about this film anyway, Bully, that's coming out, and the whole controversy about the intended audience and the rating and everything attached and how it should be discussed in schools, etc. But, you know, guys, it's just, I read, coincidentally, the review of this movie, and it was heartbreaking. Even the review about what they caught, and pretty much just cameras here eyewitnessing 4 different children's stories around the country, all in the early teen years here, 13-year-olds all the way, I think, to 17-year-olds, and the cruelty that is youth. And while that's not new necessarily, some of the consequences at least seem to be more new. And you've got kids, yourself and I, of different ages and different statuses, and this is a really hard thing to navigate, and, you know, especially now with social media, it even further complicates it that much more.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It is devastating and heartbreaking to see these young people going through this. And, you know, I think the more stories we hear about bullying, the more it does support the idea that these types of films should be shown to children. You need to discuss this. I know in both of my son's schools, they have bullying programs. So the schools are trying to address it. Whether or not it's successful is another story, but it's a very difficult thing to combat, especially with the prevalence of social media. No matter what they say about age minimums on those Facebook and Twitter, there are kids underage using those forms of media, and that means 24-hour-a-day potential bullying that these poor kids can't escape. It's devastating.
Is that what you think has changed in all this? Because when we were kids, there was bullying around us, but it didn't seem like the end result, the consequences of it were nearly as severe as they are now. I don't know if it's somehow...
I went to a few of these conferences, a moderator panel, so I'm only as good as what they tell me. But the difference is that whether it's a Facebook account here but it doesn't end anymore when the bell ends for school. And moreover, it's not like, when we were kids, you might get in a fight with somebody, but stupid guys that we were, by the next week you were friends with them again or whatever else. They explain that this imprint, that and this stain that never goes away online, that never disappears, and that creates feeding frenzies for everyone to go at, that rumor and innuendo, that while it might have been passed in the hallway, is now trafficked and multiplied, and almost like throwing chum into the water here with circling sharks. And the helplessness these kids feel with an impossibility to identify who to talk to or who to respond to, and they sometimes make it even worse. And then you throw in the stuff of sexting and all the typical rites of passage that kids go through in terms of trying to navigate, you know, high school or middle school. But now all of a sudden there's pictures, and now that there's trails. And for me, Dominic, when I see these stories, it's just like this is happening in plain sight, and so many people, the parents, the educators, all said, I didn't know. How could I have known? And you get frustrated, and God forbid I haven't been in the situation, but maybe it's not just negligent people that drop the ball. Maybe it's that, you know, it could be happening under your nose. You don't even know.
Well, what I think about when we and bravo to what Dean Zano just said about, you know, you got to let kids see this topic and these types of films and so on. I couldn't agree more. But what I think about is the last 10 minutes of a child's life. Just put yourself in their shoes for 1 second, where they decide they have no other option. With all the things that are available to us as Americans and in life, they have no other option, they feel, but to take their own life.
Which is one, and that's a great point, and one of the reasons why whenever we have these discussions, I always think there's so much focus on stopping the bulliers and cracking down on that. I wonder if there's enough in terms of teaching coping mechanisms. I'm not saying that anybody should have to endure this, but clearly some people are going to be subjected to it. And I wonder if the kids have enough coping skills to how to handle this, or even just the It Gets Better campaign, which is targeted towards gay teens, but to let them know that there is light at the end of this tunnel if you just get there. So, because I think about those last 10 minutes also.
You know what, I'll go out there on a limb. Normally when it's bullying of someone, in most cases, it involves children that if you look at the parents in some degree, you can see there's something wrong in the household. And I'll say it. And my feeling is that if you're going to bully someone else, and thank God that my son is out of high school now and in community college, but if you're going to bully someone else, you are suspended. And you can't come back to school until you learn how to act right.
You're going to see, Dominic, and they explained that, and there's a scene, and we'll talk about the film, you know, in fact, right after the break, but there was a scene in the film where kids are in a fight. Principal calls them into the room, and they make the kids apologize to each other and shake hands. One kid eagerly does it, and the other kid is like, wait a minute. The kid who wouldn't shake hands, chewed out by the principal, being recalcitrant and everything else. It turns out that was the kid that was being tormented and bullied. And he finally stood up for himself, and he was, in effect, victimized, may not be the right word. Again, it is so hard. And I know you're right more often than not, but there's a lot of parents that we'd have dinner with that are good people that they don't know where to go. It's the new kid. It's the fat kid. It's the gay kid. It's the kid that's different. It's the small kid. It's the kid that doesn't fit in. They were the kids that were hassled when we went to school, let's be honest. But now, they never get a break. And you got kids that are more violent, it seems now, or maybe it just seems that way. But you do have something which is they're tormented 24/7. And in one case, a kid said, if the tormentors stop, who's going to talk to me? I mean, that broke my heart.